Imagine this. A man meets a woman who awakens something deep within him. At first, he feels in control, confident. But then something unexpected happens. That woman doesn't beg, doesn't cling, doesn't try to keep him at all costs. On the contrary, she lets him go. And it's in that precise moment when a primitive instinct hidden in the deepest part of the male unconscious awakens, like a fire that cannot be extinguished. Sigmund Freud, one of the greatest scholars of the human psyche, taught us that true love isn't born from possession but from mystery and freedom. When a man realizes a woman isn't desperate to have him, he feels something rare in these times, genuine desire. This isn't a cheap seduction trick, but a direct reflection of what Freud called the unconscious mind, where our deepest desires and fears manifest in irresistible ways. Now, before continuing, think, how many times have you seen a man become obsessed with a woman who seemed distant, almost unreachable? Does this happen by chance? Or is there something much deeper behind this phenomenon? What Freud revealed about the unconscious mind can explain exactly why men fall more intensely in love with women who let them go, and what you're about to discover may completely change your perception of relationships. Have you ever stopped to think that many times the real secret to making a man fall deeply in love with you isn't in conquering him, but in allowing him to fall in love by himself? It may seem contradictory at first. After all, everything within us drives us to do the opposite. Insist, show interest, prove our worth. But here's the big question. Could that need for control be precisely what prevents true connection? The human mind operates from unconscious drives, suppressed desires, and defense mechanisms. When we try to force love, we're actually blocking its natural manifestation. Freud teaches us that true love cannot be imposed because it emerges from the unconscious and strengthens when there's space for projection and idealization. When you allow a man to feel your absence, to have the necessary space to project his desire, his mind begins to fill that void with deep meanings. And it's exactly this phenomenon that creates a connection that goes beyond the superficial. When you try to control the process by sending insistent messages or trying to prove your worth, you interrupt this essential psychological mechanism. Instead of giving space for idealization, you become predictable, and the predictable loses mystery, loses magic. True attraction isn't born from pursuit but from the presence of powerful unconscious drives. Men don't fall in love with women who chase them. They fall in love with those who have their own center, an unshakable energy. This isn't a game, it's not an artificial strategy, but a profound understanding of human psychology. When you become the source of your own value, your energy changes. And believe me, men feel that change even if they can't explain it. They feel attracted, almost genetically, to what they cannot completely possess, because it's precisely that sensation of mystery and fullness that awakens in them the desire to connect deeply. Freud affirmed that within each of us exist unconscious forces that shape our desires and decisions. A man doesn't fall in love with someone who throws herself at his feet, but with one whose presence activates something within him, something he feels he needs to discover. That's why letting go isn't an act of loss but a movement of power. When you release the need to control the other and focus on your own growth, you become an unforgettable presence. True love is born in freedom, not in dependency. Now, before continuing, think, how many times have you seen a person who seems to have a natural magnetism? Someone who doesn't need to strive to be desired, but who precisely by not seeking approval becomes irresistible. This isn't coincidence. It's the result of a deep understanding of human psychology. Today we're going to immerse ourselves in this knowledge and reveal what really makes a man fall in love in an intense and lasting way. What you'll discover could forever transform your way of seeing relationships. When you demonstrate security and tranquility, something powerful happens in the psyche of the other. You transmit a silent but irresistible message that you don't need to control, retain, or manipulate anything. And this is precisely the type of energy that awakens genuine desire. Freud taught us that the human unconscious operates through repressed desires and hidden motivations. When a person feels they're not being forced into something, their mind opens to explore, to desire, to feel. Freedom creates the space for true feeling to grow. The great secret of attraction lies in mystery. Giving space generates curiosity. When a man doesn't feel the pressure of having to decide something immediately, his unconscious begins to work in favor of connection. He starts to reflect, to feel the absence, to realize what really matters to him. That enforced absence of control doesn't push him away. On the contrary, it allows him to build a deeper image of you. Instead of trying to shape his perception with insistent words or actions, you allow your presence to become something naturally valuable. Freud compared the process of psychic development with the struggle between our primal drives and societal expectations. In relationships, this principle is essential. When you try to retain someone with too much force, you often generate the opposite effect: withdrawal. Just as a butterfly flees at the slightest brusque movement, a man feels repelled when he perceives he's being pressured. But when there's an atmosphere of freedom and trust, he approaches of his own will. This isn't a manipulation trick, but simply respecting the nature of human desire. Therefore, letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting. Trusting in your own energy, in what you have to offer, and in the fact that what is true always finds its way back. Deep down, every human being desires to feel that their choice was authentic. When a man is really interested, it's not necessary to insist or pursue. The signs are always present. You just have to observe actions and not just words. Genuine desire isn't revealed in empty promises but in the consistency of interest, in the spontaneous effort to be present, and in the way he demonstrates that your presence matters. True interest manifests in details. An emotionally involved man remembers the little things, nuances in you that others would ignore. He wants to know if you arrived safely, remembers that seemingly insignificant story you told days ago. He does it not because he has to, but because he wants to, because at the deepest level of his unconscious, he has already perceived something rare. Your presence isn't an obligation but a privilege. In the end, true feelings aren't revealed in what is said but in what is done. And when you understand this, you realize that the power of attraction isn't in running after someone but in becoming someone worth choosing, day after day. The human psyche reveals itself not only in what we say but in what we feel and transmit. That's why, beyond observing a man's actions, it's essential to pay attention to how you feel by his side. True love manifests through care, constancy, and a genuine desire to be present. And that desire isn't born from obligation but from the deep connection between two essences that meet. Freud teaches us that the basis of any authentic relationship isn't in what we try to force, but in what is built organically when there's a genuine harmony. Natural magnetism doesn't come from the relentless pursuit of perfection but from the acceptance of who you really are. It's not about impeccable clothes or carefully rehearsed phrases, but the energy you emanate. When a man finds a woman who feels comfortable with herself, who has her own identity and isn't afraid to express her authenticity, he feels something rare, a presence that doesn't seek approval but simply is. This activates powerful unconscious drives within him, the desire to be close not out of need but by choice. That's why the first step to building this magnetic presence is strengthening your self-esteem. Ask yourself, what makes you unique? What do you love about yourself? Instead of comparing yourself with others or trying to fit into external standards, direct your attention to what makes you special. When you reconnect and stop seeking external validation, something incredible happens. Your energy changes. This change can't be faked or forced because it comes from within. And believe me, others' unconscious mind perceives it instantly. Freud affirmed that the energy we emit attracts that which is in tune with it. When you align your vibration with the type of relationship you desire, you unconsciously create a powerful field of attraction. Instead of waiting for someone to fill a void, you become someone who is already complete. And it's precisely this that attracts genuine connections. Subtlety also plays an essential role. Mystery isn't hiding who you are, but allowing the other to want to discover you. If you take all the control, you never give him the opportunity to demonstrate interest. The space for curiosity is what keeps the flame of attraction alive. And lastly, the greatest force of attraction isn't in what you plan to say, but in the way you live the moment. The most intense connection arises when you're present, listening, laughing, giving yourself to the interaction without the anxiety of impressing. When you abandon the fear of being judged and simply allow yourself to be there, something magical happens. You become magnetic. because true charm isn't in being perfect but in being real. True seduction isn't about manipulation, control, or psychological games. On the contrary, it's born from an authentic energy that naturally resonates with the collective unconscious. Freud teaches us that everything we attract into our life is somehow a reflection of what we are internally. This means that when you're aligned with yourself, secure and at peace with your own essence, attraction happens effortlessly. Real magnetism arises in the balance between making yourself present and giving space, allowing desire to manifest spontaneously and organically. Women who become unforgettable don't keep a hidden secret or possess forbidden knowledge. What differentiates them from others isn't a trick but a simple truth. They know who they are and aren't afraid to express it to the world. They don't beg for approval, don't dramatize to receive attention, and above all, don't live terrified by the possibility of losing someone. Freud said that coming to terms with our conscious and unconscious drives, where we face our suppressed desires, is key to living authentic relationships. Unforgettable women don't depend on external acceptance because they've already accepted themselves. The secret of this magnetic presence begins with self-care, not only in the physical sense but also in emotional and mental growth. These women understand that to attract something extraordinary, they must become the best version of themselves. This doesn't mean perfection but commitment to their own evolution. When you invest in your mind, in your inner peace, and in your well-being, your energy changes. And as Freud teaches us, everything in the unconscious manifests in the external world. That is, what you feel about yourself is directly reflected in the way others perceive you. Another essential factor is confidence in your own worth. Unforgettable women aren't worried about proving something to others because they already understand their own sufficiency. That deep confidence means they don't need to seek external validation to feel complete. They don't cling to relationships out of fear of being alone because they know that true love isn't born from the dread of loss but from the freedom of choice. They don't try to retain someone who wants to leave because they understand that what is genuine remains by its own will. In the end, the greatest power of attraction doesn't come from effort but from naturalness. Desire is born in freedom, in the space for the other to choose and feel for himself. This is something that the human unconscious understands instinctively. When you stop trying to be what you think others desire and simply allow yourself to be who you really are, you become magnetic. The difference between someone common and someone unforgettable isn't in something that can be learned in seduction books, but in the courage to live one's own truth. Women who leave a deep mark in a man's mind don't do it with grand gestures or rehearsed words, but with how they make him feel. They don't force intimacy, but they don't fear it either. Freud teaches us that real connection occurs when there's space for authenticity and surrender at the right moment. Pressuring a relationship or acting from anxiety only creates unconscious barriers that push the other away. The true magic happens when there's flow, when the exchange happens without the need for control. This isn't a strategy, it's a profound understanding of human psychology. The difference between who is unforgettable and who is just passing through is in authenticity. It's not about trying to pressure, following rules, or applying formulas. It's simply about being. When you understand this, everything changes. You stop seeking acceptance and begin to attract people who truly value your essence. This happens because the human psyche detects what is real and rejects what is artificial. Freud showed us that when someone lives aligned with their own truth, their presence becomes magnetic. What truly attracts isn't the need to be loved, but the security of knowing that the right love will come. And that's the greatest secret. Unforgettable women don't try to be unforgettable. They simply are. They don't chase attention, don't seek to validate their existence through another. They live so authentically that they become impossible to ignore. That's why giving up on a man when necessary can be one of the most powerful acts you can do for yourself. This doesn't mean surrendering to love, but creating space for something that's truly aligned with what you deserve. Retaining someone against their will, insisting on something that doesn't flow, only generates resistance and weakens your own energy. Freud affirmed that true transformation occurs when we detach from the illusion of control and direct our attention to the only territory we can really change, ourselves. When you let go of what no longer serves you, something incredible happens. You reclaim your power, your energy transforms, And it's in that moment when the true power of attraction comes into play. The more you insist on something that's in imbalance, the more you prolong the suffering. But when you accept reality, something within you is released, and that liberation creates a powerful effect. Your vibration changes, and your own presence begins to attract that which is in tune with your true worth. So look inward and ask yourself, does this relationship reflect what I really want and deserve? If the answer isn't an absolute yes, then perhaps it's time to let go, trust, and allow the natural flow of life to bring something that's truly at your level. In the end, the true conquest isn't keeping someone by your side at any cost, but becoming someone who, simply by being who they are, is never forgotten. Many times we're so focused on making a relationship work that we forget to ask if it really makes us happy. Freud teaches us that the human psyche seeks above all to reconcile our conscious and unconscious drives. When we cling to someone who doesn't value us, we're deviating from that path, trying to fill a void that actually can only be filled from within. The real question we should ask ourselves isn't, how do I make them stay? But, does this relationship reflect what I really want and deserve? The next step isn't trying to fix or change the other, but redirecting your attention to yourself. Every time you exhaust yourself trying to mold someone to fit into your life, you move away from your own power. Freud said that what we repress in ourselves ends up controlling us. Invest in yourself. Take care of your emotional, physical, and mental health. Reconnect with your dreams, with what really makes sense to you. The more you strengthen yourself internally, the more your energy field changes. And here's the deepest secret. When you let someone go with love, without resentment or desperation, you not only release that person but also free yourself. This creates a powerful impact not only in your own psyche but in the way the other person perceives you. Suddenly you stop being someone who needs validation and become someone who radiates maturity, strength, and self-confidence. And those are precisely the most magnetic qualities that exist. Many times it's this act of letting go that makes the other see your true worth. However, letting go isn't just about the other, it's about trusting in the process of life. Freud taught us that there's a natural movement in the human psyche that always seeks balance. This means that what is truly yours will never have to be forced. True love isn't born from the fear of losing, but from the certainty that what is aligned with your essence will always find its way to you. When you release what isn't genuine, you open space for something much deeper, either with that person or with someone who's really ready to offer what you deserve. In the end, it all comes down to a choice. You can continue trying to control what's beyond your reach, or you can assume the power that's already within you. What you're seeking is also seeking you, and when you work on your energy, your self-confidence, and your courage, the universe responds. It brings the right people, the true connections, and the relationships that reflect the love you cultivate for yourself. Be that woman who isn't afraid to let go because she knows that what's real is never lost. Be that woman who leaves a deep mark not because she tries to impress but because she lives her truth without fear. Love doesn't need to be chased. It's already within you, waiting to be shared. Trust your path, trust your strength, and above all, trust that what truly belongs to you will find its way to you at the right time. You deserve the best. Never accept less than that.